we have any Star Wars fans in the room? We certainly hope so, because this series is going to be so much fun. We want to say welcome to the Buena Vista Theater, everyone. My name's Tisa. Hello. Hi, Tisa. You're all up, broad-eyed, bushy-tailed, and we have so much information and so much fun planned for you for this event. We're doing a speaker series, and we actually have some actual superstars representing Lucasfilm and Star Wars, coming from like the planet Earth. Yay, how about that? And they come on board to join us on board our ship up here, everybody. Hopefully you all grabbed the handout. They're located on the counters right by the door. We're actually going to explain this in just a little bit. We're going to take you step by step. The person that's going to come up here is actually an illustrator. He actually draws. He's been doing this since he was very, very small. And he's basically an expert at a little bit about everything. I'm going to let you know what he's actually like just gifted in. It's animation, sculpture, woodworking, video production, and writing. He actually invented and patented a system called DrawingIsSimple, and that's actually the logo at the very bottom of the sheet that you have. We're going to explain all about it. He's actually going to bring some volunteers up on the stage, and he's going to go step by step, and you're going to be doing some drawing right here on the stage. And at close to the very end of this fabulous talk, if we have about 15 minutes left, we're going to open up the room to questions and answers. So if you have any questions or anything you'd like to share, I'll be running around with a microphone at that point. And he said, okay, photos are okay. Photos are okay, so if you want to photograph at any time, you may. Ladies and gentlemen, he's here. Can you all please make some noise and give it up? Spencer Brinkerhoff, the third, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Tisa. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Star Wars at sea. This is amazing, isn't it? I am so excited to be here. I am a lifelong Star Wars fan. I've done everything that I could to learn how to be part of Star Wars in one small way or another. And so just being here and part of this with you is super exciting for me as well. So we're going to see how this all works. So yes, lifelong Star Wars fan, right? Now there was a dark time in Star Wars where some may have been a little bit nervous or ashamed or maybe embarrassed to share a photo of themselves with Star Wars toys. I grew up with Star Wars. I loved it. I was always part of it. Even this Droid Factory set. Did anybody have this set? Do you remember this one? This was not the greatest set. I mean, you could build a droid, but I mean, really, it wasn't even any of the main droids. If anything about this photo that I thought that may be embarrassing now, I'm very happy to share, is the fact that my pajamas are a little bit see-through. So other than that, I'm happy to be sharing this photo. Now, what is a fan of Star Wars and a fan of art and animation and Disney supposed to do, right? Well, I decided I was going to go to school. I went to Arizona State University in Arizona, Tempe, Arizona, and I graduated with a fine arts degree. And, you know, everyone sort of cautioned me a little bit about this. Spencer, do you really want to be an artist? Have you heard the phrase starving artist? And I was a little bit nervous about that, but I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I studied painting, I studied film, I studied editing, I studied everything that I could to learn more about art and animation. And what I want to talk to you guys about today is how I actually used all of this to become part of the Star Wars family. So after I graduated from Arizona State University with a fine arts degree, I went out to find that fine arts job, and I got it. I was a painter. I was a professional painter right out of the, I painted houses. We did interiors, I did exteriors, a little stucco work, maybe some drywall, but I was a painter, professional painter. And so I had to look for some other job, but I still tried to stay creative. I worked at a company called Treadway where I was a large-scale sculptor. The P.F. Chang horses, have any of you guys eaten at P.F. Chang's restaurants? I got to work on several of those horses. So I sculpted there, and then I worked at Cisco Systems where I taught people how to be a network certified professional engineer. So I can draw an excellent picture of you of a data packet as it travels along that Ethernet line. Art, pure art. Now I worked through a couple of different companies as I went, and I work now as a curriculum designer, and that's my day job, and I moonlight working with Star Wars. But then, how did I get into all of this? It had been about 10 years since I graduated from college, and I had a friend from college call me up and say, Spencer, why aren't you drawing anymore? And I said, I need to make money. And the starving artist thing it's truer than I wanted to believe. And she said, would you like to work on Lord of the Rings? And I said, yes. How do I get to New Zealand? And she said, you don't actually have to go to New Zealand. The Topps Trading Card Company and Upper Deck Trading Card Company have the license to create a series of card sets. And they use art from the Lord of the Rings, they use art and stills, but to make the sets a little bit more exciting and engaging, they give blank cards to artists, and they ask you to draw something original on each one. Now these cards, same size as trading cards, it's 2 by 3 inches, and you just have to draw something original on it. I had a friend of mine that told me, everybody has about 100 bad drawings in them. So if you want to find your style and you want to practice, you have to go through 100 drawings. So on my very first card set, which is these ones over here on the right, I just drew 100 cards, and I was not happy with those. If anyone finds these cards in the wild, please contact me. I will buy them and burn them. I'm not happy with the way that style worked. The card sets that they were doing came up a little bit short, and they asked if we could make another set, and I jumped in and did another 50. So from like this picture of Gollum here to the one over there on the left, I felt that I was starting to get into stride, and I was learning more about how to draw and finding what my style would be. Well, after this set, I got to put on my resume, New Line Cinema, Lord of the Rings. That was awesome. Then it was Marvel. A whole new set of sketch cards for Marvel. And I wanted to do something different with these and try and do something interesting, so I did a black and white series of 6 cards, and then the last one was color. Now, this was a paying job, and you know, again, starving artist, right? I got paid $1.50 for every single one of these cards that I drew. $1.50. Every card I drew was $1.50. So that first set of 100 cards that I did, I got paid $150, and I used that money to buy my markers so that I can continue to draw. I just wanted to draw, I just wanted to learn, I wanted to get involved. And I knew that this was something for me to do on the side so that I could practice and learn more. And then my friend contacted me again and said, Spencer, did you hear they're doing a set for Indiana Jones? And I was thrilled. I love Star Wars, I love Disney, I loved adventure. And I said, I need to be part of this set. So what happens with these cards, though, is you don't just draw it and then it goes out into the wild. Each one of these cards has to be approved through licensing at Lucasfilm. So as they look through this, in addition to being able to now put on my resume that I worked for Lucasfilm, but I also got a new little title, and that's Lucasfilm Approved Artist. So that meant that I was on their list of people that they could call on for different events or different activities, similar to what we have today. Now, the next step on sort of my progress, I'd mentioned that I did a lot of different things in college. I did video production, stop motion animation, sculpture work. I've got a question for you. Everybody knows #1 movie, 1977, Star Wars. #2 movie, does anyone know what was it? Superman, close, not what it may have been, I don't know, not what I was looking for. Smokey and the Bandit. Yeah. So, I found a contest, and for this contest, you had to tell Burt Reynolds why you deserved to win his Trans Am from that movie. They were celebrating the 30th anniversary of Smokey and the Bandit, and they were rebuilding the car with Burt Reynolds' input. They had a TV show on the DIY network called Burt Builds a Bandit. I made my video, told to Burt why I deserved it. I won the car, but that's another story. But what happened is, in January, this car was delivered, and then a week later, I was laid off from my job. So this car was valued at, I don't know if I say, it was valued at $80,000. I was given $20,000 so that I could pay the taxes on this gambling prize, but it was actually going to be in excess of $30,000. And I had this car and no job. And so I was trying to do these sketch cards, but we know that those don't pay very much. And then I got this call. Remember that list I told you about? Well, because I was a Lucasfilm approved artist, they were putting together their very first Star Wars celebration event. Has anyone been to a Star Wars celebration? Does anyone know what that is? A couple of people? Star Wars celebration is like Comic-Con. It's sort of like being on Star Wars Day on the cruise ship for a full weekend. Everything Star Wars, everywhere you look. Star Wars autographs are available, guests show up, and then with that they have an art show. And they asked me if I'd like to participate as one of their select artists for the Star Wars celebration in Japan. Now, I'm pretty sure that the way that this worked is that it was the weekend before the San Diego Comic-Con, which is another huge, huge event. It was in Japan, and a lot of their normal artists kind of said, no, we're not going to be able to make that. So they sent me a message and they said, Spencer, can you go? And I looked at that and I said, もちろん行きましょう。日本が僕の大好きですから本当に行きたい. And that means yes. Actually, it doesn't mean yes. It means I'd love to go to Japan. I would be happy to be there. So I said, what do I need to do to be part of this show? And they said, put together some illustrations, show us a concept of what it is that you'd like to do, and send it in to us. Here I was, I felt like I'd finally found I'd found an opportunity to be part of Star Wars. And I felt like Star Wars was something that was like, you know, there wasn't a lot of those fans that I really got to interact with. I didn't even know that there was a whole Star Wars convention. I sent this sketch into Lucasfilm, and they looked over it, and they sent me a message back, and they said, Mary and I looked over your illustration, and move along, move along. They're quoting Star Wars to me in the email. I'm like, this has got to be the best place to work. So I was totally scared that I was going to mess up this artwork. So when I made it, was I took and I drew each layer individually. I wanted it to have the look like it was shot with a real sort of like 35mm lens, like it was a real film production, but it was still animated. Now, the way that Walt Disney did this with the movie Bambi is where it was most famous is they used what's called a multiplane camera. And this camera is about 13 feet tall. It shoots down through multiple layers of glass, and each glass has a different image on it. So it creates an actual depth of field so that you get this blurring that you see in the foreground here, and then another blurring in the background happens because your camera's depth of field picks that up. I wanted to do the same thing with my artwork and illustration. Then, when this was all done, I was afraid I was going to mess it up, so I did a lot of it on the computer. I digitally inked it and colored it and arranged it all. I heard that George Lucas wanted to have the first right of refusal to buy the original artwork. And I was like, who am I? How did this happen to me? And what happened was I thought I don't really have an original art piece because I just had those sketches. So I built this shadow box, and it's 2 feet long, and it's 6 inches deep, and it's multiple planes of acrylic glass with different artwork on each one to create an actual depth of field and shadow to it. I thought that's what I want to do. George Lucas didn't buy it, so I still got that. But when I showed up to that event, oh my gosh, I was thrilled. Now this is just some of the things that you can see. They had a full-size do-bag, and because I was there early setting up, I'm just there in my shorts, I jumped on top of that thing, got my picture taken. It was an event. Everywhere I looked was some sort of Star Wars experience. We went out to dinner that night, all of the artists in the art show, and as we're sitting there, Anthony Daniels, Mr. C-3PO himself, walks in and just walks past us. One of my friends waves and says, Anthony, come sit with us. And he says, no, I've got other plans. And she says, well, would you like some sake? Sake is a rice wine. And he said, he picked up this sake and he started walking around and he was serving people. And I walked next to him and I said, are you moonlighting as a waiter? Is this what's going on? And he says, oh, I guess it's my lot in life. Star Wars. They just quote Star Wars all day long. I need to be part of this family. So because I was an exhibitor, I got to sneak in early. I jumped into the snow speeder, took off on the speeder bike with Jabba behind me, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Something else that happened is Lawrence Noble, he is a sculptor. If any of you guys have seen the Star Wars show that's on the YouTube channel, or have seen, I've been to the Lucas facility there in San Francisco, there's a Yoda sculpture on the fountain, and that was done by Lawrence Noble. Well, during the show, at the end of the artist tables, he was sculpting that bust of Mark Hamill the whole time. And at the very end of the show, Mark came by and he was posing for pictures. And I said, "Hey, Mark, check out this picture that I drew of you." And he says, "I like the smirk on that guy's face." He signed that for me and then took a picture. So wonderful, wonderful to be part of these different experiences. Now, the Star Wars events, these celebrations, they happened infrequently. And I had made a promise to myself that I wanted to be part of this, and I needed to figure it out. And I knew that, more than just being at the show, I was going to make some new connections. So at the show, I met someone that was part of Lucasfilm, and at the time they had the Star Wars shop, and they had a new license holder by a company called Zazzle. Zazzle is an online, on-demand publishing company that you can get things printed out, and they were going to do this Star Wars artist series, and they had a license to create this, which meant that I could just draw. I was one of 6 artists that were invited to be part of this series. I could draw whatever I wanted to, and as it was approved, it was available on a mug, it was available on t-shirts, it was available on mouse pads, any number of things. So I thought I'd test it out a little bit. And I did this cartoon Vader, and I did the choking hazard. I thought that was funny. And then I did it again with "I'm crushing your head." I don't know if anybody remembers that skit from Kids in the Hall. They did "I'm crushing your head" like that. I thought that was funny. It got approved. So I thought, this is wonderful. I want to do something with Boba Fett as well. And at the time of the Clone Wars, Boba Fett would have been about 12 or 13. And they said, no. Boba Fett is not to appear in the armor at all as a youngster. And so I knew that probably what they were going to do is something in the Clone Wars with Boba Fett, but the Clone Wars series was canceled before it got to the full part where we saw Boba Fett in armor. So I just made him taller. And that one got submitted as well. So, as I said, I wanted to be part of the Star Wars events. I wanted to continue to make art prints. Now, that very first one that I did was for the 30th anniversary of Star Wars opening in Japan in 2008. This one, I wanted to continue the series. That first one was called "Sorry About the Mess," Han Solo quote. So I thought, can I do the original trilogy with Han Solo quotes? So the second piece that I did is called "I Know." And it was done through a license holder, Acme Archives. And they were the ones that sold that one. And then it got time for our next celebration, which was Celebration 5 in Florida. And I wanted to do something else. This is the sketch that I submitted to them, and this is how it finished out. Now, Celebration 5 was actually the 30th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. But I was doing a piece from Jedi because I wanted to finish my series. And I thought, is there a way that I can maybe do something within that artist series from Zazzle that I can create something, maybe a t-shirt that has something special to do with The Empire Strikes Back? So I started to look through Hoth. I loved Hoth. And I noticed this image of 3PO by the door, and I thought a nice graphic design to do for a t-shirt or a pin or a button or something would be that logo that's on the door. So I tried to zoom in on that, and I really couldn't read what it said. And I tried to decipher it, and it just looks like a series of dashes and numbers and letters. It doesn't look like it's real Star Wars. Now, question for you guys out there. Some of you may have been doing the Porg hunt today. Do you know what the Star Wars language is?
Arabic.
Who said that? Arabesh, right out back there. Arabesh is the official Star Wars language. They don't use our alphabet at all. But trivia, Arabesh was not invented when they actually made the movies. So this series of letters and numbers are what they threw up on the door because they just needed something there. And if you'll see in the special edition when Obi-Wan Kenobi is shutting down the tractor beam, they've actually redone that section, so they've removed the word power and have rewritten it in Arabic. So I thought, I've got to find something more about this. I looked online, I found a YouTube trailer for the original Empire Strikes Back trailer, and 3PO actually ripped that sign off of the door. I'm like, what is so special about that sign? So I've got some deleted scenes here that I wanted to share with you. And I'm going to try and talk over this a little bit, but check this out.
Well, the bounty hunters better know me, they'll change my mind. When no one gets back, don't look at me like that. More jobless bounty hunters after me every day. I don't get this price off my head while I still have one. What about you?
Now, everything that we see in Star Wars didn't actually make it onto the film in the final cut. Rumor has it that George Lucas was not very happy with the way that these wampas looked on film, so they didn't make the cut. Maybe he took a cue from Jaws, and he tried to do some scenes off camera to build some suspense, but you never really get a clear shot of the wampa in the original Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. But because the movie was in production, they had a script, and they had a comic book that they were doing with that. Oh, this part, yeah. Some of our rebels are in the Tauntauns den, and that across the bottom are Tauntauns. The wampas made their way in there. So one of the things that we did learn from the comic is that the wampas, as they were attacking Echo Base, actually were attracted to R2-D2's whistle. They use R2 as a lure to get all of the wampas rounded up and then locked away so that they would be safe. Now this scene is actually in the movie. They're running through, 3PO comes up and cut. That's where the movie scene ends. But 3PO goes over there and he rips off that suspicious sign that we don't know exactly what it says yet. But what do you think's behind that door? So, Lord Vader, we should not go in there. So now we know what was behind the door. They use R2-D2's whistles to lure the wampas into one location. They ripped off the sign that warning people not to go in there, and yeah, that's what happened. So I reached out to Lucasfilm, and I have a friend over there named Leland Chi, and his job title is Keeper of the Holocron. Now, within the Star Wars universe, the Holocron is the database of all knowledge. That's Leland's job. He makes sure that there is a consistency, there's a continuity to everything within the Star Wars. And I said, what does that sign say? And he says, well, if you look in the Blueprints Rebel Alliance book, it's labeled as lethal hazard dismemberment, but it doesn't actually address anything else in there. There's also a nice little fun part here that says, clearly marked doors. If the stormtroopers arrive, 3PO thinks that the wampas should greet them. So that was the only hint that I had to what this actually said. So I looked at my text, I looked at what Leland had provided, I looked at the way that the Arabesh translated to try and find something that looked similar to the original, and then I took that piece and I added some dimensionality to it, and I made this into a t-shirt that was licensed and approved by Lucasfilm. So what happens when you do licensed work is that it goes into the Star Wars Lucasfilm style guide. And if another retailer or another license holder wants to create some new Star Wars artwork, they can hire an artist, or they can just check into the style guide and see what's available. So from start to finish, we've got the fuzzy text, the translated Arabesh into my piece, and from there into the Lego set. So in this, thanks. So in this very, very small way, by doing a little bit of research and working through the license holders, I changed Star Wars. Or I fixed it, I don't know. So that means that anytime they want to use this sign now, they will use the lethal stay out. Even if it's modified and it's in the orange text and it goes right back there in the back, it still is the same one. Now, as I continued on with the series of illustrations and artwork that I wanted to do, I decided to recreate the original trilogy again, only this time with Vader quotes. You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor, and then we went on to, don't make me destroy you. I thought this was better than that other line everybody knows. And I also wanted to change things around a little bit, and I used some 3D to create a different perspective that you might not have seen before. And then the last one in that series, Obi-Wan has taught you well. Fun little, let me go back just real quick. These two guys right here, if you read the Dark Horse comic series, Tag and Bink, these are some side characters similar to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. They are throughout the whole Star Wars movie and the comic book series, and so I added them right there at the back as well. They're the Crimson Guards kind of hiding. I wanted to have some fun, right? So back to that Star Wars print, something else very exciting happened when I was at that Star Wars celebration. Lucasfilm reached out to me and said, as one of our Star Wars artists, would you be willing to show up into the family room? And in the family room, teach a how to draw lesson. And this is the very first one that I put together. And I said, listen, I love teaching. I love kids. I love how to draw, but they're usually so difficult. So what I did is I tried to make this as simple as possible. And this is the way it feels to me sometimes. Have you guys ever looked at a how to draw book and it seems like these are the steps, right? First, you grab a pencil, maybe then you draw the eyes, and then, you just add some details and you're all done. Does it feel like that, right? So what I did is I thought, if I can create a series of how to draw that is super simple, that anyone can do, then it's important to me, and it's fun. And so I went online to see if the name DrawingIsSimple.com was taken. It wasn't. So I thought, DIS, Drawing is Simple. This is awesome. So I decided that I would go down the road and try and create a series of how to draw that uses this coin as a template. And I did this for a couple of different reasons. The way that it works is you trace around to make that perfect circle. You mark the guides that are on the coin in conjunction with your steps, and then you follow along with one of the different cards and you can do it. This is the drawing that you guys all have with you right here. Let me see. Oh, hold on a second. I thought there was one more slide in here. I guess I took one out. The other part of this story, let me go forward a little bit, is I started this with my 6-year-old son. So Jackson, he thought maybe he thought Dad was cool. And he wanted to draw too, and every time he sat down to draw, he was super frustrated with drawing. He couldn't get the circle right, and he gave up before he even got anywhere with it. And I thought, if I can help Jackson draw, then maybe I can help somebody else draw. And what else in sort of like our lives do we kind of shut ourselves down before we even try and say, I can't do it. It's impossible. But if you can trace a coin, you just drew the circle. And you've already started. And I tease a little bit that it's like Dumbo's feather. That if you can just hold on to that, you've already got the ability, but if you can start, hold on to that coin, draw a circle, then you can actually draw these characters. So what I would like to do now is a little bit of a drawing demonstration. And I would like to invite 3 people to come up here and draw with me. I have a flyer up here for you, which is the same flyer that you have, as well as a coin, and then we've got a camera set up that I will draw along and you guys can watch me as we draw. Now everybody in front of you, you have a drawing coin, and the coin has little guides and markers all the way around it. The back side of the coin has a little character on there that has a grid to it. Ooh, shiny. And that grid helps you see how everything lines up. You don't have to use all of the grid points. But if you guys look at the flyer here as well, our red lines are our steps. And we're going to start with those steps and we'll go one by one, and you guys can draw right along with me. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to hold our coin down, just put your finger right in the middle of that coin, and take and draw the circle right around it. You don't have to press hard, you don't have to press soft, but just make sure there's a circle there. Now you can move the coin to make sure you got the circle. Now also notice your pencils don't have any erasers on them. That means we can't make any mistakes. Just kidding. Wait. It's drawing, nothing is wrong. You can do it however you like. Now before you move that coin 100% out of the way, we're going to put that coin right back inside of our circle and look at our flyer here. See, on the top there are 2 little lines that line up with the top of the drawing coin. So we're going to draw a little line right there at the top and then one to the right. And then we have the lines that go all the way around the bottom half of the coin. We'll mark those ones as well. The real challenge is to do it while the ship is moving. All right. So now we can move our coin out of the way. We can see we've got some guidelines there. Now you guys, you don't have to do this part, but I'm going to draw really light to show you guys how this works. Also, here's a fun little activity to do with the audience. If you take your thumb and your index finger and you put it right here on your ear like this, in the camera totally, leave your arm just like that and then turn your head towards your hand. And what happens is you'll find that your nose lines up with your ears. So there's a symmetry there that we're going to replicate. And I'm going to draw some light lines just so I can say, okay, see how these lines sort of connect there, and then those lines connect that way? What that means is that that is going to be the location for our next step, which is drawing our ears. So we can draw the letter C on the left-hand side as we connect those 2 lines together. And then we'll draw a capital D on the other side. And there's our ears. And then just like the exercise that we did where we combine, and we see that ears line up with the eyes, right here in the middle, we're going to draw our circles for our eyes, and that will complete the very first step in drawing Luke Skywalker. How are you guys doing down there? Perfect, I heard that. Awesome, excellent. Now, the next step, it's not too complicated because we pretty much know our alphabet, right? We're good?
Yep.
We're going to draw the letter W. And W is going to be Luke Skywalker's hair right here in the middle. So we draw a letter W, and that's his hair. And then with that little line that's on the top right, we're going to draw the letter V, and that's going to be the part in his hair. Right there. And good. Oh, don't forget his pupils. So he can be looking left or right or up or down or crisscrossed applesauce. No, that's not right. Cross-eyed. All right. So the next step is we're going to start connecting some of these pieces together. We'll start here at the top of the V, and we're going to come right down to the ear, and that will be the side of his hair. And then we'll skirt right along the top of our drawing and connect this side, and that will be the top part of his hair. And then we can make him smile, we can make him frown, we can make him be confused, or like Mark Hamill said, I like the smirk on that guy. There they are. This is awesome. Did I do it again? Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect the top of those W's down to the side of his ears to make his hair there. And Luke Skywalker also had that really awesome 70 hair that was kind of long in the back. We're going to take our W's again, and maybe we'll turn our paper a little bit to the side, and we're going to connect this line at the bottom with a W up to his ear, and then this one over to this side with a W as well. And there's Luke Skywalker and his long hair. Now, to get the right proportions, we're going to take our coin, and when you guys have completed that, we're going to line up the top of the coin with the bottom of his chin. Now, we're not going to draw the circle all the way around it, but if we look at our instructions, we can see that there is a little dash mark on the left, right, and then 3 along the bottom. So we're going to mark those positions on the coin without drawing the circle. And in art and sort of like design, this character, they usually talk about how tall a character is. This character is 2 heads tall, which means that his head size and his body size are the same height. So we're going to move that coin to the side and we're going to draw his body. Now, we've got these guidelines on here and we can see that these kind of connect here, but we're going to have it stop at that midway point, and that will be our rectangle for Luke Skywalker's torso. Perfect. Now he's got a really cool belt, and his shirt is like this tunic that kind of sticks out underneath his belt. So we'll draw a small rectangle underneath his torso, and then just do a straight line above the torso so that we have his belt. Now we're back to our alphabet. He's got that really cool sort of like fold over type of shirt going on, and that can be a complicated shirt, but shape, but all we're going to do is start in the corner here of his chin, and we're going to draw the letter Y. And there he is. Oh, and his belt. There. Now to make his legs, we can be done at this step, with his legs or not. We're going to come right down from the middle, and we're going to draw a backwards L and a forwards L. And maybe in this situation, Luke Skywalker has skipped leg day, and he's just really skinny, and that works, if that's what he wants to do. But then we're going to take on top of that. Let me check in on everybody. Good. And on the end, you got it? Nice. Right on top of that, lined up with his torso, we can actually draw a small L and then another small L. That was a backwards L. And this will complete the rest of his legs. Oh, I see that my instructions have some highlights off. I need a proofreader. So the next thing to do is connect these lines together to make his toes. And then on either side of his belt, we're going to make little circles for his hands. Sometimes hands can be complicated, but this is drawing is simple, so we're just drawing circles. Now, we're going to get a little bit more complicated. You guys are going to have to help me with my math. The greater than, less than, the alligator eats this and more than, less than. That's what we're going to draw to connect his arms together. So which one is this? Is this a greater than, or is this the less than? I'll just draw them both at the same time so that nobody knows I don't know. And then from here, it gets into just some small detail work. So we're going to take and follow those instructions along, and we're going to add another little line here on the side for his forearm as it comes up. And then what I like to do when I'm all done, and which is the part that we're at now, is I like to just give him a little bit of an outline. I go around here like this and make things a little bit darker so that I can see those details a little bit more. And I'll also take and make some boots. His boots are sort of like wrapped up legs, so we can do that sort of a detail. And that is how to draw Luke Skywalker. Let's see how you guys did. Adding those final details. Now, while they're adding those details, I'll show you real quick. When we get into drawing R2-D2, we know R2 is shorter. So when we draw this character, we're not going to draw the whole character, but we'll start right here and do a half circle around to create the dome. And then we'll go ahead and mark those 2 spots on the top and the bottom. But now that we have that half circle, we can come across here and look at just like that. We're already drawing R2-D2. The other thing that I say as you're finishing your drawings, remember to sign them and date them so that when you're rich and famous, your parents can sell that.
Grandkids.
Grandkids too. And it's all about signing it. So we'll sign this one. And I think, are we ready for some Q&A as well?
We're ready for Q&A, everybody. First of all, please, another round of applause for the volunteers. It's a lot of pressure. Now, we do have a few more moments for Q&A, and we're going to try to squeeze in as many as possible. I'll run all over like a headless chicken. If you like to ask questions, raise your hand. I'll just make my way over to you. If you wouldn't mind giving us your name and where you're from. Okay, we'll start there. Okay, so
Thank you very much.
Spencer, there's a gentleman down in the front.
Hey.
Tell us your name and where you're from.
So cute, this one.
Thank you.
I was wondering how much of your work has been licensed out to like Legos or to Kinder Toys or anything?
Right, thank you. The way that the licensing works, and more often than not, what will happen is I'll be hired on to different projects, and like I mentioned earlier, those projects then are approved and they go into the style guide. So Lego never contacted me about the set that we saw up here. That was just, they went into the style guide, knew they were doing a Hoff set, and they pulled that out. So aside from the Star Wars Celebration events and the Star Wars Artist Series on Zazzle, that's the majority of the work that I've done. Thank you. And if there aren't questions, I have extra slides, but you have a question? Yeah. Do you want?
No. So how do you support yourself?
So he said, how do you support yourself?
How do I support myself? Which is funny. It reminds me of a Batman joke with a cane. No, sorry. So my day job right now is I'm a curriculum designer. And so what I do is I do video production, I write scripts, I research topics, I do animation, illustration, and video production where I do online training courses. And so that's where I do for my day job, but then I do this stuff because I love it and it's super fun. And there is another Star Wars Celebration event coming up in April in Chicago. And so I'm getting ready for that event as well.
Okay, there's another question up in the middle. And you can raise your hand while people are asking, and I'll come and be in place so your question is ready to go. Maybe please have your name and where you're from.
Goldie from Wisconsin. You've accomplished so much both in your day job and your other job. What haven't you done yet that you'd like to?
What haven't I done yet? Oh my goodness. That is a really good question. I really want to be in Star Wars. So I have a friend of mine, I've done some different video production work, and I did a pilot for a TV show where I was a host. And the TV show didn't get picked up, but it was super fun. And my friend that was a producer on that, her business partner is a producer for Lucasfilm. And as they were hiring and getting ready to do The Force Awakens, I sent in my headshots and I said, I just want to be in the background somewhere, I just want to be there. But what happens is the majority of that work is being done at Pinewood Studios in London. And so you have to be a British citizen to be able to do that job. They have to hire locally first, and then they go from there. So my next big goal is to, be in Star Wars. Like those rebel pilots that you saw for a split second. I have a daughter named Tally, and in the opening sequence of it was The Last Jedi, there's this big battle scene that's going on, and there's a pilot in there named Tally, and we all went, hey, so, something like that. That's what I wanted.
There's a question here, the lower middle section, and it's a lady. Your name, where you from?
I'm Mandy, and I'm from North Carolina. Do you have any of your own characters that you've ever created?
Yes, thank you. So part of the series with the Drawing is Simple is that I worked within licensing to make sure that everything is approved, and that is not a done deal as far as the licensed characters. And so they've asked me if I would create my own characters. And so I have a series that I've written, the first book in it, it's called Disenchanted, right? And it's about a series of characters that have powers similar to Airbender, where they can control air, water, wind, and earth, but they do it through the power of the coin. And if they're away from their heartstone too long, the power becomes disenchanted and they need to return home to recharge at the heartstone, and they go on an adventure. So it's that series I'm working on right now, and hopefully the offer for that book comes in soon. So yes, that's also part of the goal, is that being able to work within an established product line is amazing. It gets you lots of attention. It gets lots of people to know who you are and what you do. But when you go outside of that and start making your own, then you create it. And you get to expand upon your own creations as well. So it's that mix where I want to do Star Wars because everybody loves Star Wars and I love Star Wars. But if I could make my own characters that they know just as well as Star Wars, that would be super fun. And
any other questions? Everybody's being shy.
that's fine too. I don't know, where are we at on our time? Because
we have 10 more minutes to have fun.
Because I have some extra slides. So part of the process of creation is looking at other artists and what they've done. This is the artwork done by Ralph McQuarrie. Ralph McQuarrie is the person that George Lucas hired after he wrote the script to say, please visualize this because nobody gets it. Now, Star Wars Rebels, I love Star Wars Rebels, and then when that show was first coming out, I wanted to do an art print for Star Wars Rebels. So I took this early concept art from the Cantina, and then this one that was done several years after that one, also the Cantina, combined them together and thought, what if the characters from Star Wars Rebels were in here? Now, at the very beginning of the show, Ezra went on a mission with Bosk. And you only read about this in a young adult sort of like novelization. So he had not met the crew of the Ghost yet, but the Ghost is in here meeting with this guy to get some intel where they're going to go on their next mission. So that's my first sketch, sort of like laying it out, and then I start to add some colors. And like I said, I do things on layers. We do a little bit of shading in there, readjust it a little bit so that it has some different dynamics, moving it around until it gets to be just right. I submitted this to Acme Archives for a print. I talked to Ryder Wyndham, who is the author of the single adventure with Bosk and with Ezra, and I said, what would be a good title? And he said, Reluctant Allies. So I got to work with him on that, and it never got approved. So this one is one that it exists on my hard drive, and it does not exist in print at all. And that happens more often than you think. So after The Force Awakens came out, I thought, I want to do another print, and I want to do this for the Star Wars event in London. And I thought, you know, the original trilogy has three main colors in the palette. We have Tatooine yellow, we have Hoth white, and then Endor green. And we saw all of those in The Force Awakens. We had Jakku, we have Starkiller Base, and then we made it to Ahch-To, is that how we say the name correctly? And I thought, wouldn't that be a wonderful print as well, all three of those together? And that's my concept art that didn't get approved. And then the last piece here, again, Star Wars Rebels. With Rogue One coming out, I put together and did some Photoshop work, and I grabbed all of the characters from Rogue One and I lined them up with the animated version of Vader from Star Wars Rebels, and I put them all together in a piece, and I thought there's a nice symmetry here where we have our 3PO and R2 type of a character, and then each crew has their heavy hitter, their Jedi light, their gunmen, and then we've got them on the end. So I thought it made a nice symmetry, but that didn't get approved either. And that's all I've got. So thank you guys for joining us today. And I do have some other little cards up here. My brother and I, we love Star Wars together, and we don't like standing in line to watch movies. So we rent out the whole movie theater, and we make a private screening, and I do art and t-shirts and some little extra things. So I have some small cards from our event in Mesa, Arizona. If you guys would like to have one of those, I'll have them up front, and you can come by and we can chat a little bit more. But thank you all for being here for the presentation.
Thanks, young boys and girls. Spencer Brinkerhoff the third.
Thank you.
Now, if you didn't get a chance to catch the entire presentation, or you want to, family members, this may be interesting for you, you want to come back, we'll be back here at noon again today, doing the entire presentation again. And thank you all so much for joining us. But come on down, don't be shy, and may the force be with all of you, everyone. Have a fabulous day.
Thank you.